as we discussed earlier, we are able to process 13 records here, and this specific record, while we were executing this specific record, right, this this record doesn't have value for product code. Okay, in basically to create the order, we need product code, unit price, customer account number, and quantity. These are the 4 important mandatory values, right? But we were missing product code value for this specific record, in this specific record. So if you see in the Excel file also, let me open the Excel file. Go to this E drive, centric data solution. Here it is directly. If you take a look at this orders Excel file here, you can see this specific record doesn't have data in it. See, product code is missing for this specific record, and that is the reason we ran into an error in the previous scenario. So whenever we run into an error, how are we going to handle them? How are we going to handle them? Okay, that is the first point. Okay, how are we going to handle them? So here I'm going to explain queue concept here. Okay, I'm going to explain queue concept here. Sorry, exception handling concept. It is also again very important concept. How queues are very important, right? Queues also, you will be getting a lot of questions in certification. Similarly, in each and every automation will be using work queues. Similarly, exception handling also, you'll be getting around like 10 questions on exception handling in certification. Queues and exception handling, these two topics will hold major content on this what to say, like a certification part. Okay, so please be aware of these concepts. Okay, and please try to practice these concepts as much as possible. Now coming back here, go to this BluePrism studio. Now I'm going to create a new process here to explain exception handling. I'll first explain with a simple example, and then we'll step into the actual concept. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about a within simple example. I'm going to explain this with a simple example. Okay, exception handling, and then we implement it in our process. Exception handling, how are we going to handle the exceptions? Okay, now let us come here. We have recover stage, resume stage, exception stage. These are the 3 stages which we are going to use for exception handling. Okay, so recover stage will help you to catch the exception. Recover stage will help you to catch the exception. Okay, so basically in programming language, you might be knowing, right? You have already done exception handling in your how to say, in .NET training, right? So how you might have done it? You might have written some code. You would have put it in try block. And you would have written catch block under that. Yes or no? Catch, where it is going to catch the exception, where you can say exception, something like that. You write some function here, which will help you to catch the exception. And then if you want, you will throw the exception. While throwing the exception, if you remember, you can throw user defined exception. Yes or no? From here you can throw user defined exception. Yes or no? So this will throw an exception. You're going to write some code here. There will be some code, ABC code. There will be some ABC code here. That ABC code, when it gets executed, okay, it might assume that it might run into some exception. Assume that it ran into some exception. The exception message will be something like division by 0 is not possible, something like that. Okay, now that will be caught in this catch stage, right? Now we are going to throw that exception here. We are going to throw, we will catch the exception, and we are going to suppress the exception, the message. So let's say, for example, the message which has been coming up is division by 0 is not possible. Assume this is the exception message which we have got from this try block. There is some code. When we ran that code, this is the error message. Now this error message will be caught by this catch stage, I mean the catch block. Now what we do, we suppress this catch block exception message and we are going to throw a new error message, naming that as, instead of this error message, we want to see a new user defined message where we will say we can't divide a number by 0. We'll throw a new error message from here, throw block. Try, catch and throw block. Understood, right? What I'm trying to explain here is, you try some code, you catch it through catch block if there is any exception. Only if there is exception, you catch it through catch block. And if you want to suppress that error message, you're going to use throw. Otherwise, you will use the same error message. Division by 0 is not possible. If that is okay with the client, we will use same message. Or else, if there is any proper message defined for you and they want to see this message, then you will write the user defined message here. Understood, right? Is that clear? Same way, even in BluePrism, let us handle the exceptions now. Same way. Now let me delete these stages first. Let me take a calculation stage. Open the calculation stage. Let us divide two numbers. 25 divided by 0. Assume we can't divide this any number by 0. We know that. But I wantedly have written this expression so that it will throw an exception and we will see how to handle that. Okay. Division. And I'm going to store the result in result. I'm going to create a data item here. Okay. So I'm trying to perform a division here. And when I try to run this stage, see what is going to happen. What happened here? Fail to evaluate expression, division by 0. We can't divide any number by 0, right? Division by 0 is not possible. And that is the reason it has failed to execute this particular expression. Okay. Right? Now reset the flow. Similarly, let me take a collection here. Number 1, number 2, and then result. Number data type. Okay, result I will make it as text. I will explain you later why I have made it as text. Okay, I will explain it later. Okay. Can we store number in a text data item? Can we store a number in a field which data type is text? Yes, we can store number in text data type. So that's fine. Even though I'm able to divide two numbers, if I get a number, I can store it in this result since it is a text data type. Okay, but in a number data type, will I be able to store text? In a number data type, will I be able to store text? No, we can't store text in a number data type. So let me make it as text and I will explain you why I have made it as text here. Slowly, just hold on for a second. Okay, this is let me name it as input data. What is this? Input data. Okay, this is our input data. Let us define some fields also here. 25, 5, 40 divided by 0, 80 divided by 20, 100 divided by 0. Okay, so now as the data is in collection, what am I supposed to do to process these records? We know that we are supposed to use loop stage. Open the loop stage, choose our collection over here, loop input data. Okay, link these stages here. So now in the division, let us update the expression here. We are going to divide number one divided by number 2 and store the result in input data dot result. This is the place where we are going to store the result. See the expression what we have written, number 1 from input data dot number 1 divided by input data dot number 2, and we are going to store the result in input data dot result. Okay, now when we execute this, I started the flow. You can see it is working on first record now. While executing the second record, it ran into an error. So what are we supposed to do? This is the block which we are trying, right? And we have to catch the exception here. So to catch the exception, how are we going to catch the exception in BluePrism? In programming, we know that we are going to use catch stage. And how are we going to do this in BluePrism? That is the place where we are going to use recover stage. Recover stage will catch the exception. Okay, you no need to link the stages here. You no need to link the stages. Basically, it won't allow you to link the stage to recover stage. Okay, it won't allow you to link the stage to the recover stage. See, we can't link it here. We can't link it, right? Any stage you can't link it to the this recover stage. Okay, you have to leave it like that. From recover you can link it to any stage. Okay, from recover you can link it to any stage, but you can't link from any other stage to recover. Okay, fine. Now let us go to the properties of this. You can see there is not going to be any settings which we are going to make it here. Limit the number of times this recovery is attempted. I'll explain about this later. We don't use this ideally, okay, but we'll discuss about this later. Okay, now see, there is not going to be any functionality written inside this specific we will not have any properties in this specific recover stage. Only this checkbox, okay. Now this is going to be our recover stage. Now any error that is going to occur from any of this stage in this main page, I can say in this main page between start to end, if there is any error that is going to come up from this flow which we have designed between start and end, that will be attracted by recover stage, which means it will be caught by the recover stage. Okay, now see this. Next stage, step first record, there is no error. Second record, see, when I executed the second record, it automatically went to recover stage. Yes or no? It automatically went to recover stage. Okay, so before I go ahead and design this flow, let me show you one more point here, why we are supposed to do exception handling, why exception handling is very important. Okay, so here we know how to run the process from control room. Hope I remember I have explained you how to run a process from the control room. Yes or no? Yeah, how do we run a process from control room? What are the steps to do that? Can someone tell me how can I run this process from control room? Okay, how am I going to make it available for control room? Excellent. Publish the process to control room first. How am I going to publish that? Go to information box. This is the information box. In the main page, you will find the information box. Go to the information box here. Open the information properties. Okay, where you will be able to see the checkbox. Publish this process to control room. Click OK. Now we are going to publish this process to control room. So once you click on the checkbox, don't forget to save the process. Okay, sorry, published to control room. Don't forget to save the process. Once you save the process, now go to control room. This is our control room, and here you can see exception handling process available. Exception handling process available. Now drag and drop this exception handling process which is available onto the available resource, and here you can see it is in pending status currently. It is in pending status currently. Right click on that process and start it. Right click on that process and start it. You can see the process is running, and once you refresh this page, you can see it got terminated automatically. It got terminated. Why it got terminated is because, okay, 1 second. Hey guys, I'm stepping out of the concept. Okay, now I'm not discussing about exception handling concept. Someone have messaged me that their resource is offline. I'm talking about resource. I'm talking about session management concept. Okay, I'm not talking about exception handling. Remember, please listen to me carefully. Someone asked me that their resource is offline. Okay, whoever is facing that problem, please ping me. Whoever is facing that problem. How many of you are able to see that your resource is in offline state? Whoever is getting that, please message here. Sam, only one person. Anyone else are facing same issue? Okay, what you need to do here, I'm going to explain what you are supposed to do. If in future also, whenever if your resource is going offline, right, what you are supposed to do is, go to C drive. Whoever is facing that issue, go to C drive, program files, BluePrism Limited, BluePrism Automate. Here you will be able to see automate.exe, automate.exe, or just automate. If you are not viewing, so let's say if you are not getting these extensions, right, what you can do is click on view, and say file name extensions. Check this checkbox, file name extensions. Then you will be able to see all the extensions of all the file names here, and then locate this automate.exe. hold shift key on your keypad, right click on that, copy it as path. Now open command window, cmd, type cmd in your Windows search. You'll be getting this command prompt. Paste it, whatever the path that we have copied, paste it, and then type the arguments here. Resource PC public. These are the two arguments, resource PC and public. These are the two arguments you are supposed to type, and then click enter. Where is my listener? Yeah, and you can see our listener is started. Okay, now I'm going to exit this. I am pasting this command in your chat box. You can make a note of this, guys. In future, whenever you face the same issue, you can resolve it by like this. Now you go to command window, paste the same thing, and run it. Resource PC has been restarted on port 8181. No, not required. No need to restart your PC also. Just refresh it here and you will be able to see that. Okay. Just refresh it here and you will be able to see that. Okay. Restart pending. Is it asking you to restart? Okay, we'll look into that later, Sam. You can share the screen later. Then I will look into that. Okay. Why is it asking to restart and all? Okay. Fine. So that is how you can go ahead and make your resource PC available. So basically here there will be a listener. If you exit this listener, right, it will go offline. If you exit that listener, it will go offline basically. Okay. And if you want to restart it, then you have to go to command window and run the command which I have given you. Okay. Then it will start the resource automatically. Okay. Now let us come back. Now we have seen, see, we are coming back to exception handling concept now. We stepped out of exception handling concept and we have seen how to start a resource PC. Now we are stepping back into exception handling concept. A resource PC turning on and turning off, nowhere related to exception handling. Okay. Clear? Yeah. Now let us come back to exception handling concept. So here, while handling the exceptions, let us go to our process now. So did you notice that if there is any error, it is going to terminate. Why it got terminated is when we run the flow, you can see it is going to start the first record. It will be able to execute. When the second record is getting executed, it is throwing pop-up. When you run from the control room, if your solution is going to throw any pop-ups when it is running in the control room, it will simply terminate the process. It will not consider to it won't, I mean, because we haven't defined any exception handling here, right? Simply it will terminate the process if there is any pop-up. Okay. So what we are going to do here to process our request smoothly, to process our flow smoothly, we are going to handle all the exceptions here, take a recover stage, and then we are going to take a resume stage here. We are going to take a resume stage here. Okay. What is the purpose of resume? Resume is whenever whenever the process throws an exception, it will be in error state, right? And the error will be caught by the catch stage, and resume is going to suppress that error message. Okay, suppress that error. Whatever the error we are going to get, it is going to suppress the error and we can continue with the remaining flow. Okay, so what are we going to do here is, see, observe it. So whenever I get an exception, I am going to resume the flow and go to loop end. I'm not going to end the flow, I'm going to loop end. If I end the flow, it will stop there, then and there, because in this collection we have 4 records. First record, second record will throw exception. If second record is going to throw exception, we have to handle the second record and then we should continue with the remaining records here. So to continue with that, what are we going to do here is, I am going to connect it to loop end. Resume, I'm going to connect it to loop end. Okay, now let me run this flow and you can observe how it is going to execute. I'm going to set it as next stage. I'm going to debug it step by step so that it will be clear for you. I'm going to debug it. We are going to execute first record now. First record, we are successfully able to divide first record. You can see the output here. Observe the output. First record, we are able to do that. Now coming to the second record. Coming to the second record, we are going to execute, I mean, we are going to divide the numbers of second record. When we try to divide the numbers of second record, exception has been thrown and recover is able to catch the exception. Recover is able to catch the exception. Now we are going to resume the exception. We are going to resume the exception. Okay, now we are able to come to the loop end. Now when this loop end gets executed, what is going to happen? When loop end gets executed, it will automatically pick the third record from the collection. You can see here it has picked up the third record from the collection. Now we are going to execute third record. Now we are going to execute third record. Now open the collection and go to the current rows and see 25 by 5 we got the result, and 80 by 20 we got the result. And for the second record it ran into exception, that is the reason it didn't get executed, and the record is empty here, resultant record is empty. And then we have last record, and then we have last record also supposed to execute, but it has thrown an error because there is 0. We can't divide a number by 0, and we are going to resume it, and we are going to end the flow. Now if I run this flow without resume, by directly connecting this recover to the loop end, what is going to happen? Now observe this carefully. Okay, I'm going to start. First record is executed. Second record, while executing second record, it is going to throw an exception. We went to an exception. We are in the recovery mode. Yes or no? We are in the recovery mode. Now what happened? Directly from recovery mode, we are going to execute the remaining records. Without suppressing the exception. Okay, now we have executed 3 records in total. Third record is also executed. Now when you try to execute the fourth record, you can see it will throw a pop-up again. See, it has thrown a pop-up again. Yes or no? It has thrown a pop-up again here. And why have we got this pop-up? Why did we got this pop-up? Because we didn't suppress the previous error. So we have to resume the flow once a recover stage is handling an exception. Until and unless you are going to resume that, you can't handle another exception in the same page. So for that reason, in the second row, when we got the error, recover stage is able to catch that exception, whereas we did not suppress that exception which was caught in the second record. And when we try to execute the fourth record, it again has thrown the error, and here it is not able to catch the exception because we did not resume the previous exception. Okay, is it clear now? Now let me reset this. Let us take the resume stage here. Now you understood why we are using resume. Set as next stage. Now if you see the same thing for second record, we are able to, for the fourth record also it is able to handle the exception. Okay. But after executing all 4 records, you can see in the current values, for first record we got the result, we mentioned it as 5. What happened to second record and fourth record? Third record also we got the result and we are able to store the result. What happened to fourth record, second record and fourth record? Client might ask you, right? Hey, what happened to second record and fourth record? Why there is no result in that? Is there some issue? If there is some issue, why don't you mention that issue here? At least we should say, right, what is happening here? Why were we not able to execute that? We should at least mention that point over there. Yes or no? Correct, right? We're supposed to mention that point, right? So now what I'm going to do is, See, what is the error message ideally we will get? Remember the error message. I just want you to remember the error message. That's why I removed that. See, what is the error message? Fail to evaluate expression input data dot number one divided by input data dot number two. Division by zero is not possible. Okay, something like that. This is the error message. Okay, remember this. Okay. Now let me come back here. Okay. Now what I do, right? Since we are not storing any values for second and fourth record when they run into exception, and what are we going to do here is I'm going to take a calculation stage. I'm going to take a calculation stage, open the calculation stage, go to the properties of the calculation stage. In the properties window of the calculation stage, you can find a function called as exceptions. If you guys are in front of your mission, right, you can do this along with me. You can do this along with me. Okay, so we'll go to this exception functions. In this, we have a function called as exception detail. The detail of the exception currently being recovered. The detail of the exception currently being recovered. What is this exception detail is going to give us? It is going to give us the message from the exception which currently we are recovering. Okay, so I am going to use this exception detail function here. What is that? Get error message. Get error message. Okay, and where I will store it in? I am going to store it in input data dot result. I'm going to store it in input data dot result. Okay, now click OK here. Now this get error message, that exception detail function must be used only in the recovery mode. Only in the recovery mode. So what is the recovery mode? So what is the recovery mode? Whenever your process is in between recover and resume stages, it is termed as recovery mode. Okay. Okay. Whenever your execution is in between recover and resume stages, it is termed as recovery mode, and only in this recovery mode we will be able to catch the exception message. Only in this recovery mode we will be able to execute that exception detail function, and we'll be able to read that message using which function? Exception detail function. Okay, once we come out of that recovery mode, what is going to happen? Can we use recovery mode outside the exception detail function? No, we can't use it. Okay, anyway, I'll show it practically. Let us come back here now. Let us come back here. Now let me show you what is going to happen. Let us reset this. Now I'm going to run this step by step. Now we have added a new stage here. What is that? Calculation stage, in which we have exception detail function, which will be able to read the error message, okay, from the exception. Now let us execute this. First record, we are able to execute first record. Now we are going to second record. When we try to execute second record, we know that it is going to throw error. It came to recovery. Recovery is able to catch that error. And now when we go to this calculation stage, we execute that calculation stage. Now we are going to get the result from this exception detail, and that will be stored in result. And you can see the current values. Here you can see the first record we are able to execute and we are able to get the result, but whereas second record is failed to evaluate the expression because division by zero is not possible. Okay, Now continue. Third record will get executed. Fourth record, again it will throw an exception. It will go catch the message and then come back here. Now you can see all four records will be having data, but for second and fourth record we will see the error messages. Any questions? Just give me a minute. Let me have some water. Meantime, please let me know if you have any questions and try to execute this. I want everyone to execute this small flow and run and see whether you are able to do it or not. I'll give you 5 minutes time. Please try to execute this small flow. And then we'll continue, okay? Meantime, someone said you are having some issue. Who is that? Venkatesh, is that you? You're facing some error, right? Someone is facing some error.
No, sir, it got clear.
Not clear. So, no, okay. I have a doubt regarding this drop-down box. Vibish, what is the issue? Is there some issue with drop-down? What is that?
Sir, whenever I came across the error when filling data, again it goes to this drop down. I can't reset it to initial values.
I didn't get you exactly.
Okay, please share.
Vibish, can you share your screen? Is it
Yes,
possible?
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I will make you presenter. I made you presenter, Vibish.
Sir, like here, if I put this quantity as empty, after coming across to this, it doesn't add up. Sir, let me run this.
Sorry, repeat it. Repeat it.
Sir, let me run this. So after completed,
Select the queue to the left hand side.
So this says for unit price it's showing error exception is correct, sir. But for unit price it's not showing. It shows fail to navigate, sir. But I navigated it correctly.
Go back to your process. Go to your sub pages.
Object.
No, not object.
Which page? Queue I think Excel data
Hey, Vivish,
launching.
hold on. Just wait for some time. You are going in
Okay.
advance. Let me finish the concept, then you will be able to get it. Okay. If you are
Okay.
practicing, please wait for me also. Others
Okay.
also have to practice, right? Okay. Yeah, just wait for some time. Yeah.
Okay.
You can stop sharing the screen. We did not cover that concept yet. Okay. Okay. Let me share my screen. So everyone are able to complete till here. Please confirm if you have completed, then I will continue. You have 2 more minutes to finish it. Please try to implement this so that I want you guys to understand how these stages are working. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for you to implement the task which I'm going to assign you in future. Okay, so let's come back here. So hope you have completed. I'm not sure how many of you are able to do that, but I'm thinking that you guys have understood this concept, exception handling, how we are going to catch the exception, we are going to recover it, and we are going to resume it. Recover, get the details, and resume the flow. Okay, and you need to understand where how logically you need to handle this. Okay, you are supposed to do that. Okay, as per the requirement, you are supposed to do it. Okay, only thing is you need to understand how this is going to work. You understood, right? How recover is going to work. Recover will catch the exception, and then it is going to get the error detail, and we are going to resume from there, and we are going to continue from there. Okay, now the same thing, this is recovery mode. So inside the recovery mode, we will be using this exception detail function. So if you try to use the exception detail function outside the recovery mode, see what is going to happen. If you try to use exception detail function outside the recovery mode, let me cut it and paste it somewhere else. Okay, now I'm going to take two calculation stages here. Two calculation stages here. This is the calculation stage one. Let me say get error one, and in this I'm going to use exception detail one. I'm going to use it here and name it as ed1. Okay, get error one. Now same thing, I'll copy paste this one. I'll copy paste this one, and here let me name it as er2 ed2. I'm going to create one more data item here. Okay, just see here what is going to happen. I'm trying to use exception detail function after resume. I'm trying to use exception detail function after resume. See what is going to happen. Set as next stage. Okay, observe it. I'm going to divide the first record. It is successful. Second record, it will throw an exception. We know that it is going to throw an exception. And when it throws the exception, exception detail is going to read that message and store it in this data item. It is able to store the result in a data item, right? See the output of this. So what is the value present here? See the value, same error message, right? Now I'm going to resume the flow and continue. I want to catch, I want to read the error message after resume. See what is going to happen. If you try to read the error message, or if you try to use exception detail function after resume, see what is going to happen. Again it ran into exception. See, this has thrown exception. Let us see what is the exception it has thrown. See the message, what it is telling. Exception detail function can only be used when in recovery mode. Exception detail function can only be used when in recovery mode. It has failed to evaluate the expression. It has failed to evaluate the expression. It has failed to evaluate in the sense like it has failed to execute the expression. It has failed to execute this function because exception detail function can only be used in recovery mode. Only inside recovery mode we will be able to use exception detail function. Outside the recovery mode, if you try to use this, it will throw an error telling that failed to evaluate the expression. Okay, and then again it will be recovered here. Now if you continue, it will run into infinite loop. Okay, so that is the reason we are not supposed to use exception detail or any other exception functions outside the resume. After resume you don't use it. Simple. Any other exception functions in the calculation stage, you have 4 exception functions, right? All of them must be used only inside the recovery mode. If you come out of the recovery mode and if you try to use those, then it will throw an error. Is that clear? Any questions? Okay, so this is how we are going to handle this. Now if you try to run this process from the control room, see how it is going to run. Save, added. As we are handling all the exceptions here, now if you try to go to the control room, refresh your control room, drag and drop your exception handling into that available resource, right click and then start. Now you can see the process will be moving to completed status here. Why is it hanging? Bit slow. Yeah, you can see here the process is now moved to completed status. Okay, so that is the advantage when we use exception handling. And you can see here in the previous scenario it got terminated, now it got completed. Now come back here, now go back to section process, not this one. Now similarly we have one more stage called as exception stage. You can see there is an exception stage. What is the purpose of that exception stage? So we have try, catch, and throw, right? Similarly, here we have recover, resume, and throw. Okay, recover the exception, resume the flow, and then throw the exception. Wherever it is required, we have to throw a new exception, which can be a user-defined exception. Okay, is it clear? So how to use that throw exception function? Okay, so basically throw exception function will be used in all the timeout stages, okay, from the object level. Now let me navigate to the, let me take you to this one of the document. Maybe I have it, right? Okay, let me explain it first. Let me explain and then I will take you to the document, then it will be clear for you. Okay, now let me take this complete flow into the page, new page, divide. I'm going to create a new page, put this flow in the new page here, open this, reset the page, sorry, I mean expose this collection here, expose this collection here, and refer the page, divide here, page, divide, finish. One second, one second, one second. Let me remove it there. Take a loop stage here. Loop for input data. I have moved that divide into another page because in our main page we should not have the big flow, right? So I mean, similar to our process. So in our process also we are referring a lot of pages here, right? Lot of pages here. Yes or no? Likewise, assume that we have moved our code to a separate page. Now I have a question for you guys. Okay, if I execute this, is it going to handle the exception as the division is here? Is it going to throw the pop-up here? See what is going to happen here. I'm going to set this as next stage. Okay, loop start, divide. Wait. Yeah, first record it is able to divide. Second record, get into the second record. Now we are trying to divide it. Okay, obviously we know second record is going to throw an error. So now when you step over, see it has been handled in the main page. Error has been thrown from this stage. Error is thrown at this stage, yes or no? This is a stage which is going to throw an error. Now when the error is thrown in this stage, subpage, this is what we call it as subpage. Now the error message is flowing up to, error is going to main page. Error is going to main page because we have the recovery mode here and it is getting attracted by this recovery mode. The error has been caught by this recovery mode. Okay, error is being caught by this recovery mode. Okay, now similarly, let me reset, come back here. So if I have recovery mode here and a resume mode here, okay, sorry, if I have a recovery mode, one more recovery mode in my sub page and in main page, okay. Now if I run this, now tell me which recovery mode is going to catch the exception, this recovery mode or this recovery mode is going to catch the exception. Which is going to catch the exception now? Which is going to catch the exception? One, two, divide page. Bala said divide page. Tinnarsu, you said sub page. Page where exception occurs. Yubish is telling that. Sam said in page 2. Page 2 or recover recover 2, that is. Sam, is it page 2 or recover 2? Recover 2. Okay. Now see this. Let us execute and see. Let us execute and find out how it is going to work. Only when we execute, right, we'll be able to understand each and everything here. So that is the reason we are going to execute step by step. Whenever we do anything, right, we go step by step. First record, we're executing first record. Okay. Now see, I'm going to step into the second record. Now see, while executing this, observe this, automatically this recovery stage is able to catch that. Okay, and see what happened. It has resumed the flow. It has resumed the flow. Okay, and here we are continuing with the loop, and here we are continuing with the loop. Okay, and if you see this collection, we did not get error message here, yes or no? Now when we continue, it will continue the third record and it will continue with the fourth record also. But where is the error message? Where is the error message? No error message. We lost the error message because since we have a recovery mode in the sub page, sub page is able to handle the exception. Sub page is able to handle the exception, and that is being processed. I mean, that is being suppressed in the sub page itself. That is being suppressed in the sub page itself. and in the main page we are going to, we are not able to capture the error also. Okay, so even though you have recovery mode in the main page, okay, whenever a page is using its own recovery mode, it will be handled in that sub page itself. Understood what I'm trying to say? Wish I know you will understand. What about remaining guys? I want everyone to let me know if you have understood or not. Okay. Rafael understood. Okay, good. If you have understood, it's really good. If not, I thought of explaining it once again. Good. The same exception handling. Let's say, assume that this is a class. This is one more class, class A, class B. So in class B, if you have a recovery mode, it will be handled there. Otherwise, if you are going to inherit class B into class A, and if class B is not having any recovery mode, if there is going to be any exception in this class B, your class A will handle it. Yes or no? Simple. How you do write the programming? Same way here also. If you have written two classes, so if you are inheriting class B into class A, and class B already have try catch method in it, the error will be directly handled there itself. If we are not using try catch method in the class B, then the class B which is inherited into class A, if there is try catch method in class A, it will be automatically handled by the try catch method which is present in the class A. Instead, we can also do one more thing. Here. So whenever we are getting the error, right, we are getting the error which is thrown by the system. That is the message which is coming by the system. Yes or no? Failed to evaluate expression. Failed to evaluate expression. New input data dot number one by input data dot number two division by 0. If I pass this message to the client, will he be able to understand? So you know how clients are going to be. So client in the sense like the business users, they are not from IT. They don't know anything about information technology. All they do is like they keep using those applications. That's all. Okay. Now this business user guy, if I talk in a technical language, will he be able to understand that? Obviously, he won't be able to understand the language when we say something technical. Okay. Okay, so now we have to give him a proper message. We have to give him a proper message. So how can we give him a proper message? How can I give him a proper message? That is the place where we are going to use this exception. We are going to use this exception stage. Now go to the divide page. Take an exception here and take a recovery stage. Resume that. Okay, now what am I going to do here is I'm not going to read a message. I'm directly going to, whenever there is an exception here, I'm going to handle that exception and I'm going to resume the flow and I'm going to throw the exception to the main page here. Okay, so observe this carefully. What I'm going to do here is, let me take a block stage. Sorry, not block, I'm sorry, link. My bad, sorry guys. Let us take a link stage. Go to pointer, open your exception stage. If you go to the properties window of the exception stage, here you can define the message. So basically, how you will get the error message? Basically, you get the error message through its type and its message. Okay, so let's say for example, if we don't have this exception handling and all here, control X. If we don't have exception handling and all here, if I run the flow, see the message what we are going to get here. First record is executed. We are going for second record. See the message. See what is this internal? Internal is nothing but your exception type. Internal is nothing but your exception type, and fail to evaluate expression is your message. This is your message. Exception detail. This is your exception detail. This is your exception type. Okay. Now similarly, we will be having two types of exceptions. Two types of exceptions. What is the system exception and business exception? What do you mean by system exception? Anyone know what is system exception? Anyone know what is system exception? What is the difference between system exception and business exception? Can someone tell me? Because you have already done in the programming language, right? You might have already handled the exceptions in .NET project. Yes or no? Did you handle exceptions in .NET? You have done a project also, right? I want someone to answer what is the difference between system exception and business exception. System exception is error in system files. Oh, wait. Let me read that. Let me go to that. Yeah. System exception is error in system files or in the mission we are working on. System exception generated by system means errors in the program, I think so. Okay. Okay. Any other answers? Any other answers? Business exception is error in our code logic. Code logic. Okay. Hmm. Okay, now let me tell you what is the difference between system exception and business exception. Why, what are system exceptions and what are business exceptions? I'm going to explain you. Okay, so basically, system exception. System exception is, so let's say for example, you are trying to launch an application, but the application is not available. I mean to say, like, we are using this centric data solution, right? Centric data solution will be the exe of that file will be in a specific path. Okay, and you are not able to launch the application, and if that path is incorrect, because of that you will be able to not launch the application. And when you are not able to launch the application, or that application is having some issue, the exe file might be having some issue, if you try to launch, it will not launch, then that is called as system exception. Similarly, when you are working on a web application, because of internet failure, if you don't have network, you won't be able to launch the browser. Okay, that is system exception. If you are able to launch the browser and the web application is not hosted properly, and you won't be able to access the web application in any browser, you will get some 404 not found error. Okay, request not found, something like that. Yes or no? Those are called as system exceptions. Okay, system means our applications. Our applications are termed as systems. Anything related to application launch or application accessibility or application availability, such kind of errors we call it as system exceptions. Okay, and business exceptions. What are business exceptions? Let's say for example, let's say for example, in your portal, let's say for IOPEX you'll be having internal portal, right? In IOPEX internal portal, they will ask you to fill in your personal details, yes or no? When you're going to fill your personal details, okay, and they will ask you to enter your phone number, your age, your date of birth, etc., right? So whenever in the date of birth field, if you select the date as, let's assume that your date of birth is, just assume your date of birth is Jan 1st 1995, just assume 1995, January 1st 1995, your date of birth is January 1st 1995, but what you entered by mistake, assume just by mistake you might have entered January 1st 2005, assume just by mistake, okay, and immediately application will throw an error. Only adults are allowed to fill in their details. Only adults are allowed to fill in their details. How can you define he is an adult? If your age is greater than 18, then you are termed as an adult, right? Yes or no? Okay. So any violation in the business rules defined for an application is termed as business exception. Okay. Any violation that we are going to do on an application where we are not able to fulfill the business rule, such kind of errors are termed as business exception. So let's say, for example, one more example, uh, phone number. When you are trying to fill the phone number, uh, basically it accepts 10 digits, yes or no? And you try to fill 12 digits. You included plus 91, your phone number 9490, whatever it may be. Okay. So since you included plus 91 in front, how many characters it became? It became 13, and this will throw an error. What is that it will say? It will say the number should be 10 characters, or the length of the number should be 10, something like that. Whenever you come across such errors, those are called as business exceptions, and system exceptions are the ones which are caused by the application's unavailability. Understood so far? Now you understood what is the system exception and what is the business exception. I gave you some examples also here. So now here also basically, okay, internal error came under, yeah, internal error falls under this system exceptions only. So basically internal error falls under system exceptions. Sometimes, right, internal error will be a business exception also. In our case, let's say for example, in our case, business has given us the data, right? Assume this data we got it from the business. And here they have mentioned zero. Okay, which is a invalid data. This one we can't say it as a business exception also, but we can tell it as invalid. To be more precise, we can say invalid data exception. Okay, invalid data exception. So internal in the sense like how you are, I mean, how you are going to define internal in the sense, let's say for example, all the exceptions will be internal if you are not going to handle it. Everything, all the pop-ups that you are going to get, right, those will be internal only, because from the stages only you will be getting the error, right? From each and every stage only, you execute some stage with incorrect data, it will throw an error telling it as internal. Okay, that is the reason you will get it as internal. But after getting the error, we are supposed to handle it. What should be the type for that error, and then we are supposed to define the type over there. Okay, good question anyway. Now let us come back here. recover. Okay, no properties. Okay, just come here. Now open this exception. Open this exception. Now we want to define our own message. So what we do here is this one we can say it as invalid error. In the drop down you will be having already some list of exception types. Okay, if you want you can select, I mean you can type your own exception also here. You can say invalid, you can say invalid number, something like that, invalid number. If you want to define your own exception you can do like this, or you can say name it as system exception or business exception, anything based on the exception type. Okay, now you can define a type but don't define it in double quotes. It is a editable drop down. What are the value you are going to enter, that will be taken by this drop down, and next time when you want to use exception stage you can see what are the new type you have entered, right? It will be automatically added to this list of the drop down. Okay, so don't enter this in double quotes. This should be entered directly exception type, whereas the detail must be entered in double quotes. Here I'm going to say we can't divide a number by 0. Please check your input data. Okay, so this is the error message which I'm going to define. Okay, this is the exception message. Now shall we run this and see? Shall we run this and see how this is going to run? I'm going to set this as the next stage. I'm going to do step. I'm going to step first record. It will get executed because we know first record we don't have any error. Now going to second record, step. See what is going to happen now. It has been recover 2 is able to catch the exception. Recover 2 able to catch the exception. It is resuming. Now we are going to throw a user defined exception. So once a resume is executed, what will happen to the first error message? It will be lost. We no more will be having that error message. You can't get the same error message which has been caught by the recovery stage. Okay, for that reason I'm going to throw a new message. When I throw a new message, what happened? Here also we are throwing an exception, right? Immediately it has been caught by the recover 2. What happened? Immediately it will be caught by the recover 2, and once you continue, right, again it will go into infinite loop. See, it went to infinite loop, yes or no? Okay, so how many of you understood this? Guys, observe this. Let me explain it once again. You might get confused. If you're not confused, that's well and good, but let me explain it once again. Okay, what I have done here is, so basically recovery stores will be able to catch the exception, and here we will use the exception detail function to read the message, and once we resume the message will be lost, the error will be suppressed, no more we will be able to use that error, right? And after resume I can't use my exception detail function, but I need to define the error message in this collection, right? So I want to send a user defined error message instead of getting the error message which is internal. I want to throw a user defined exception message. Okay, now observe this. I'm going to use a calculation stage here also. Let me use the calculation stage here and take exception detail function in this. Now name it as ed1. Let me link it here. Okay, see what is going to happen now. In the main page, I'm going to set this as my next stage. Step. First record is executed successfully. Second record, while executing second record, it will throw an error. Once it throws an error, this stage has thrown error. Okay, this stage. from this stage we got error, right? Now what we have done, we have recover stage is able to catch that error, and we are able to read the message using this calculation stage using exception detail function. And this is the message. What is the message? This is the message which is given by the system, but I don't want to see this message. I don't want to convey this message to the user. I want to convey this message to user. So what I'm doing, I have taken exception stage, I have defined the type here, and I have mentioned the detail. So user will be able to see this message. So I am going to resume this. When I resume this, no more will be able to use this message. No more will be able to use this message. Resume that. Now I'm going to throw the new message here. I'm going to throw the new exception here. Okay. So this is also throwing an exception. What is that? This is throwing an exception. And when you try to throw the exception here, it will automatically handled by this recover stage, because you have resumed it here and your recover stage is ready to handle new exceptions, and here you are throwing an exception and it will be handled by the recover stage. But my requirement is this exception, whatever the exception is being thrown here, that should be handled by the main page. So what I'm going to do here is, see, observe it. Now I am going to take a block stage. What is that? I'm going to take a block stage. What is the purpose of this block stage? What is the purpose of this block stage? Block stage will help you to block the recovery mode to a specific stage, so that this recovery stage will attract the exception only when there is exception in this stage. It will no more catch the exception thrown by this specific exception stage. If I don't use block stage, what is going to happen? If I don't use block stage and if I continue, it keeps running in the infinite